The notification lit up my phone at 2:47 a.m. while I was in a Denver hotel room, 3 time zones away from home. I'd been tossing in bed for hours, jet-lagged from the Seattle conference, when the buzz made me reach for my phone instinctively. Unknown number. You deserve to know what your wife does when you're away. Below the text was a video file. My finger hovered over it. Every instinct screamed this was spam, some phishing scheme, a virus. But something in my gut twisted. I'd been traveling twice a month for the past year since my promotion to regional sales director. Amanda had been different lately. Distant. Always on her phone. Working late at the dental office where she managed the front desk, even though she'd never brought work home before in our 8 years of marriage. I pressed play. The video was grainy, shot from what looked like a doorbell camera across the street. But the house was unmistakable. Our 2-story colonial in Westchester County, the one we'd stretched our budget to afford because of the good school district for our 6-year-old daughter Lily. The timestamp showed Tuesday night. 2 days ago, I'd been in Portland for a product launch. A silver Audi pulled into our driveway at 9:23 p.m. A man got out. Tall, athletic build, expensive suit even in the low light. He didn't knock. He walked straight to our front door like he'd done it 100 times before, and it opened before he reached it. Amanda stood in the doorway wearing the black silk robe I'd bought her for our anniversary. The one she said was too fancy for every day. She pulled him inside, her hand on his chest, and the door closed behind them. The video jumped forward. The timestamp now read 11:47 p.m. The same man emerged, adjusting his tie, Amanda behind him in the doorway. Even in the grainy footage, I could see her run her fingers through her hair, that gesture she always made when she was satisfied, content. He kissed her. Not a peck. A long, familiar kiss that spoke of routine, of comfort, of something that had been going on for far longer than one night. I watched it 3 more times, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Another message arrived. This has been going on for 7 months. His name is Blake Patterson. He's a pharmaceutical rep who visits her office. Thought you should know before you waste any more of your life. I stumbled to the bathroom and threw up. When I could breathe again, I sat on the cold tile floor, my back against the tub, and opened my laptop. Blake Patterson, pharmaceutical sales, New York area. It took 15 minutes to find him. LinkedIn profile showing a cocky smile. Graduate of Boston College, worked for Meridian Pharmaceuticals. His profile picture showed him at some charity gala, arm around a blonde woman tagged as his wife, Jessica Patterson. He was married too. The room spun. I thought about Lily, probably asleep in her bed right now, her nightlight projecting stars on her ceiling. The stuffed rabbit she couldn't sleep without. The way she ran to the door every time I came home from a trip, screaming, "Daddy," like I'd been gone for years instead of days. I thought about Amanda, my college sweetheart. The woman who'd held my hand through my father's funeral. Who'd endured 18 hours of labor to bring Lily into the world. Who'd promised before God and everyone we knew that she'd be faithful until death. 7 months. I did the math backward. That would put the start around February. Right after Valentine's Day, actually. I'd been in Chicago that week, closing the Midwest expansion deal. I'd sent her flowers, called her every night. She'd seemed normal, happy even. How many times had I been away since then? How many nights had he been in my house, in my bed, while my daughter slept upstairs? My phone buzzed again. Amanda's name lit up the screen with a text. Morning, babe. Hope the conference is going well. Lily wants to video chat before her bedtime tonight. Love you. 3 heart emojis. The casual intimacy of it, the complete normalcy, made my stomach turn again. She was good. Really good. There'd been no suspicious behavior I could point to, nothing concrete. Just a vague feeling I'd dismissed as paranoid, the normal drift that happens when work gets busy and life gets routine. I looked at the time. 3:15 a.m. in Denver. 5:15 a.m. back home in New York. Amanda would be waking up in an hour to get Lily ready for school. My first instinct was to call her, to scream, to demand answers. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the shock, or maybe some survival instinct kicked in. I'd spent 15 years in sales, negotiating deals worth millions. I knew that the person with more information always had the advantage. The person who controlled their emotions won. I needed to think. I needed a plan. I forwarded the video to my personal email, then to a cloud storage account, then to a second backup email I created on the spot. I took screenshots of everything: the messages, Blake's LinkedIn, his wife's Facebook profile, everything I could find. Then I booked a flight home for that afternoon, citing a family emergency to my boss. Which wasn't a lie. My family was definitely having an emergency, even if only I knew it yet. As the sun rose over Denver, painting the mountains gold outside my hotel window, I sat at the desk and started making a list. Not of emotions or questions, but of facts. Assets, accounts, documents I'd need. Because if Amanda thought she could destroy our family, betray our vows, and risk our daughter's stability for some affair with a married pharmaceutical rep, she was about to learn something about the man she'd married. I didn't get mad and sloppy. I got methodical. I landed at Westchester at 11:47 p.m. Thursday night. Amanda thought I was still in Denver until Saturday morning. I'd texted her from the airport. Casual, normal, the kind of message I'd sent 1,000 times before. Flight delayed. Going to grab dinner and crash early. Love you. She'd responded with a heart emoji. The Courtyard Marriott off Route 287 wasn't the kind of place anyone would look for me. I paid cash for 2 nights, parked my rental in the back lot where the security camera had a blind spot, and sat on the edge of the bed with my laptop open. I had 48 hours before I was supposed to come home. 48 hours while Amanda thought I was 3 time zones away. I pulled up the spreadsheet I'd started on the plane. Joint accounts, credit cards, mortgage details, Lily's college fund. Everything we'd built together, itemized and categorized. My business background had taught me that information was leverage, and I was gathering every scrap I could find. The doorbell camera footage had uploaded to a cloud storage account I'd created. I'd already downloaded copies to 3 different locations, including a thumb drive that was currently locked in the hotel safe. I'd watched the videos enough times that I'd memorized the timestamps, the way Blake's hand had settled on Amanda's lower back, the casual intimacy of someone who'd done this before. 7 months, since February. I opened a new browser window and typed Blake Patterson's name into Facebook. His privacy settings were loose, the kind of carelessness that came from thinking you were untouchable. Photos of him and Jessica at charity galas, vacation shots from the Bahamas, a check-in at some CrossFit gym in White Plains. Jessica Patterson's profile was easier to access. She worked in marketing for a tech startup in Stanford. Boston University, not Boston College. I'd been wrong about that detail. Her recent posts were the usual suburban wife content. Book club recommendations, photos of their golden retriever, A complaint about traffic on I-95. No kids. That was interesting. I clicked through her friend list until I found what I was looking for. Her sister, Emily Dawson, lived in Scarsdale. Her mother, Patricia Brennan, was in Greenwich. I took screenshots of everything, building a map of Jessica's world the same way I'd mapped my own assets. My phone buzzed. Amanda again. Lily asked when you're coming home. Told her Saturday. She made you a drawing. A photo followed. Construction paper covered in crayon flowers. Welcome home, Daddy, written in Amanda's handwriting across the top. Lily's attempt at letters was smaller, underneath. I miss you. I set the phone face down on the nightstand. The next step required precision. I needed to understand the full scope of what Amanda had been doing. Not just the affair, but everything around it. Where they'd been meeting. How often. Whether Blake was the first or just the latest. I pulled up our credit card statements, going back 8 months to be safe. Amanda handled most of the household expenses, but everything ran through our joint accounts. I'd never had a reason to look closely before. There. February 14th. A charge at the Whitlock, a boutique hotel in Rye Brook. $387. I'd been in Chicago that week, closing the Brennan medical contract. Amanda had told me she was taking Lily to her mother's for the weekend. I checked the calendar on my phone. That had been a Tuesday and Wednesday. Valentine's Day fell on a Tuesday this year. The Whitlock appeared again in March, twice in April, 3 times in May, including one charge for $612 that included room service. My hands were steady as I took screenshots. Everything documented, everything saved. I created a new folder on my laptop. Evidence. Inside it, I made subfolders. Financial, video, communications, background. The kind of organizational system I'd use for a major sales presentation, except this time I was building a case for the destruction of my marriage. At 1:23 a.m., I opened a new document and started typing. A timeline, starting with the first hotel charge and ending with last Tuesday's doorbell footage. Every piece of evidence I had, arranged chronologically with notes about what I still needed to verify. The anonymous messenger had given me the videos, but they hadn't given me everything. I needed more. Bank records, phone logs, anything that would show the full pattern. I thought about the dental office where Amanda worked. Dr. Mitchell Granger's practice in Bronxville, where she'd been office manager for 6 years. Blake visited there as part of his sales route. That's how they'd met, according to the information I'd gathered. Pharmaceutical reps brought lunch for the staff, handed out samples, built relationships that turned into orders, built relationships that turned into something else. I pulled up the practice website. Staff photos showed Amanda in the front row, professional smile, navy blue scrubs. The same smile she'd given me that morning when she'd kissed me goodbye, told me to have a safe flight. My laptop clock read 2:14 a.m. I'd been at this for over 2 hours and I had a full day ahead of me tomorrow. Friday. The day Amanda thought I was still in Denver, probably having breakfast in some hotel restaurant before my afternoon meetings. Instead, I'd be following her. The thought should have felt crazy, lurking outside my own wife's workplace like some jealous stalker. But it didn't feel crazy. It felt necessary, clinical. I needed to see what her days looked like when she thought I was gone. I needed to know if Blake showed up on Fridays, if there was a pattern I could document. I needed to know everything before I made my next move. I closed the laptop and lay back on the hotel bed, still fully dressed. The ceiling was textured white, generic and impersonal. I could have been anywhere. That was the point of places like this. Anonymous spaces where you could disappear for a while, where no one asked questions as long as you paid your bill. My phone buzzed again. I almost ignored it, but some instinct made me check. Unknown number. Different from the one that had sent the videos. You're not the only one she's lied to? I sat up, thumbs hovering over the keyboard. Before I could respond, another message appeared. Blake's wife deserves to know too, unless you're planning to keep this quiet. The messenger, or someone connected to them, was still watching. Still feeding me information, pushing me towards something. I typed carefully. Who is this? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Someone who's tired of watching people get away with it. Are you going to do something? Or are you just going to collect evidence and feel sorry for yourself? The message felt like a slap. I stared at it, feeling something cold settle in my chest. I typed, I'm not doing anything until I know everything. The response came immediately. Then you better hurry. Blake's getting transferred to the Boston territory next month. After that, he's someone else's problem. My jaw clenched. A transfer meant Blake would disappear from Amanda's daily life, but it didn't mean the affair would end. It just meant they'd have to work harder to hide it. Long weekends, business trips that weren't really business. Or maybe Amanda would go with him. Take Lily and... I cut the thought off before it could spiral. Speculation wasn't useful. Facts were useful. I typed, how do you know about the transfer? No response. The 3 dots didn't even appear. I waited 5 minutes, then 10. Nothing. At 2:47 a.m., exactly 48 hours after the first message had arrived, I turned off the phone and plugged it into charge. Tomorrow I'd need it fully operational. Tomorrow I'd need everything working perfectly. Because tomorrow, I was going to start getting the answers I needed. And I was going to find out exactly who was helping me get them. I spent Thursday night in the Marriott staring at spreadsheets I'd pulled from our shared cloud storage. Amanda kept meticulous records. Every transaction, every expense, every receipt. It was one of the things I'd loved about her. She balanced our checkbook to the penny, tracked Lily's medical appointments in color-coded calendars, maintained files for everything from appliance warranties to school permission slips. Now that same precision had given me a roadmap of her betrayal. The Whitlock charges started February 14th, Valentine's Day. I'd been in Phoenix that week, closing the Brennan account. I remembered calling her that night, telling her I'd make it up to her when I got home. She'd laughed, said she understood, told me she loved me. She'd charged room 412 to our visa that same evening. $287.50. I cross-referenced the dates. Every hotel charge corresponded with one of my business trips. She'd been careful. Never the same day I left. Always waiting until I'd been gone at least 24 hours. Never when Lily had school events or doctor's appointments. The pattern was so deliberate, it made my stomach turn. But something else caught my attention as I dug deeper into her work email. I'd set up the account for her 3 years ago and still had the password. She'd never changed it. Amanda worked for LifeMatch Registry, a non-profit bone marrow donor network. She'd taken the office manager position 2 years ago, said she wanted to do something meaningful. The pay was less than the dental practice, but she'd been so passionate about it. Saving lives. Giving people hope. I found the first email at 11:47 p.m., buried in a folder labeled Donor Coordination. Subject: Match Query, Patient 4782B. Amanda. I understand your concern, but the HLA typing shows Dr. Patterson is only a 610 match for this patient. We have two 10-10 matches in the database who've already been contacted and are willing to proceed. Standard protocol requires we prioritize the best medical outcome. Best. Rachel Kim, Senior Coordinator. Amanda's response sent at 7:13 a.m. the next morning. Rachel, I've reviewed the case again. Both 10-10 matches have scheduling conflicts that will delay donation by 4 to 6 weeks. Patient 4782B needs transplant within 3 weeks per Dr. Adams' assessment. Dr. Patterson can donate within 10 days. I recommend we proceed with the available donor rather than risk patient deterioration. Amanda. I opened the attached patient file. A 14-year-old girl with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Critical condition. The two 10-10 matches had both confirmed availability within 2 weeks, not 6. Amanda had lied. I searched for Patterson in her email. 47 results. My hands were shaking again as I clicked through them. The pattern emerged like a cancer metastasizing through the data. Blake Patterson wasn't just Amanda's lover. He was registered as a bone marrow donor, had been for 6 years, since before he'd met my wife. And Amanda had been manipulating the matching system to prioritize him. Patient 4782B received Blake's marrow on March 3rd. She died 17 days later from graft versus host disease. The post-mortem report, which I found in Amanda's archive folder, noted that a better HLA match might have prevented the complication. I pulled up the registry database. Amanda had given me admin access last year when their IT contractor quit, and they needed emergency help. I'd set up their backup systems, streamlined their donor tracking spreadsheets, never imagining I'd use that access for this. 7 patients over the past 6 months had received bone marrow from donors who weren't their best matches. In each case, Amanda had intervened in the coordination process. In each case, better matches had been available but were marked as unavailable or declined in the system. I cross-referenced the donors who'd actually been selected. 3 were Blake Patterson. The other 4 had made payments to an account I found buried in Amanda's personal finance records. An LLC called Harmony Health Solutions. Deposits ranging from $15,000 to $75,000, dated within weeks of their donations. She was taking bribes. Wealthy patients or their families were paying Amanda to bump their preferred donors, usually relatives who weren't optimal matches, to the top of the list. And she was giving Blake priority treatment whenever his name came up, regardless of compatibility. I found the patient outcomes next. Of the 7 manipulated matches, 4 had died within 6 months. 2 were in critical condition. 1 had survived but with severe complications. The 2 10-10 matches who'd been passed over for the 14-year-old girl. 1 had gone on to donate to a different patient who was thriving. The other was still in the database, waiting to save a life. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was killing people. I sat on the hotel bed at 3:22 a.m., staring at the evidence spread across my laptop screen. Credit card statements, emails, patient files, bank records, death certificates. The anonymous messenger had sent me down this rabbit hole with that doorbell footage, but they'd given me something bigger than a simple affair. This was medical fraud. This was murder. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The second one. The one who'd told me about Blake's transfer. You're getting closer. Check the LifeMatch board meeting minutes from August. Amanda's been covering her tracks, but she missed something. I logged into the LifeMatch administrative portal and pulled up the August board meeting files. 23 pages of minutes, most of it bureaucratic procedural language about funding and outreach programs. Page 17 had a flagged item. Concern raised by former employee regarding donor selection protocols. Board voted 4-2 to conduct internal review. The former employee's name was redacted, but the complaint was specific. Allegations that certain donors were receiving preferential treatment and that patient outcomes were being affected. Amanda had been assigned to lead the internal review. Her report, submitted in September, concluded that all concerns were unfounded. The employee in question had been terminated for performance issues and was making baseless accusations. The board accepted her findings and closed the investigation. I found the termination paperwork in another folder. The employee was named Jennifer Walsh. She'd worked at LifeMatch for 4 years as a donor coordinator. Her performance reviews were exemplary. Her termination notice cited insubordination and spreading false information that could damage organizational reputation. Jennifer had been fired 3 days after raising concerns about Amanda's donor selection process. I ran a LinkedIn search. Jennifer Walsh, former LifeMatch coordinator, now working at a hospital in Portland. Her profile listed her email. I drafted a message at 4:15 a.m. Ms. Walsh. My name is irrelevant, but I have evidence that your concerns about LifeMatch donor selection were correct. I'm gathering documentation of systematic fraud in the matching process. If you're willing to speak with me, I have information that could vindicate your allegations and prevent further patient harm. I hesitated before hitting send. This was the line. Once I contacted Jennifer, once I started pulling in outside witnesses, this became bigger than my marriage. This became a federal investigation. Medical fraud, manslaughter, maybe murder. Amanda's face flashed through my mind. Her smile when Lily took her first steps. The way she'd held my hand during our wedding vows. 8 years of shared life. Then I thought of the 14-year-old girl. The patient file had included a photo. A kid with a bright smile and a bald head, wearing a hospital gown, giving a thumbs up to the camera. Dead at 14 because my wife wanted to help her boyfriend feel like a hero. Or maybe because someone had paid her enough to make it worth the risk. I hit send. The reply came at 6:03 a.m., just as dawn was breaking over the Marriott parking lot. I've been waiting 2 years for someone to believe me. When can we talk? The coffee shop Jennifer suggested was in a strip mall 40 minutes north of Westchester, far enough from Amanda's usual territory that we wouldn't be spotted. I got there 20 minutes early, ordered black coffee I didn't drink, and watched the parking lot through the window. She arrived exactly on time. I recognized her from LinkedIn. Mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, professional but tired-looking. She carried a leather messenger bag that seemed too heavy for its size. "You look exactly like your profile picture," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. No handshake, no pleasantries. Most people don't. Thanks for meeting me. I've been waiting for this call for 8 months. She set the bag on the seat beside her. When I saw your message, I actually cried. Pathetic, right? But I thought no one would ever believe me. Tell me what happened. Jennifer ordered coffee, waited until the waitress left. I started at LifeMatch 3 years ago, data analyst. My job was quality control, making sure donor matches were optimized, flagging statistical anomalies, that kind of thing. About a year ago, I noticed discrepancies in the matching algorithms. What kind of discrepancies? Donors being marked as unavailable when they weren't. Better matches being passed over for weaker ones. At first, I thought it was system errors, but the pattern was too consistent. Always the same handful of patients getting priority treatment. Always the same donors being fast-tracked regardless of compatibility scores. She pulled a manila folder from her bag, slid it across the table. Inside were printouts, spreadsheets with highlighted sections, email chains, handwritten notes. I brought copies of everything I could save before they locked me out. Look at case file 2847. That's Blake Patterson's registration. He's listed as O positive, HLA type A02-1 B4402. Decent enough, but common. Nothing special. I scanned the documents. Medical terminology I didn't fully understand, but the numbers were clear enough. Now look at this. She flipped to another page. Patient 2847M received Blake's marrow in March. But look at these other registered donors who were marked unavailable during the same matching window. 5 names, each with compatibility scores significantly higher than Blake's. Every single one of them was actually available, Jennifer said. I verified it myself by calling them directly. They never received notification they were matches. The system just skipped them. Amanda controlled that process? She's office manager, but she has admin access to the database. She can override automated matching protocols, mark donors as unavailable, prioritize certain patients. It's supposed to be for legitimate reasons. Medical emergencies, rare blood types, that kind of thing. But she was using it to manipulate outcomes. The waitress brought Jennifer's coffee. We both stayed silent until she left. I documented everything and brought it to my supervisor. He escalated to the board. Amanda was brought in for questioning, acted shocked and concerned. She volunteered to lead the internal review herself. Said she wanted to get to the bottom of it, restore integrity to the system. Let me guess. The review cleared her. Completely. She blamed me. Said I'd misunderstood the protocols, that I was making accusations without understanding the medical complexity. Painted herself as the dedicated professional trying to protect the organization from a disgruntled employee. 2 weeks later, I was terminated for performance issues and unprofessional conduct. Jennifer's hands shook slightly as she lifted her coffee cup. I tried going to the medical board, but without access to the full database, I couldn't prove anything. Just looked like a fired employee with an axe to grind. My lawyer said I didn't have enough for a wrongful termination suit, so I just gave up. Got a job doing data analysis for an insurance company. Tried to forget about it. But you couldn't. 4 people died. Her voice cracked. 4 people who might have lived if they'd gotten proper matches. And I did nothing. I pulled out my phone, opened the files the anonymous messenger had sent. I need you to look at something. I showed her the Harmony Health Solutions documents, the wire transfers, the patient files, the correspondence between Amanda and wealthy families desperate for donor matches. Jennifer went pale. Oh my God, she was taking money. $15,000 to $75,000 per case. 8 confirmed transactions over the past year. I knew she was manipulating matches, but I thought... Jennifer scrolled through the documents, her expression shifting from shock to fury. I thought maybe she was just incompetent, or having an affair with someone and prioritizing him. I never imagined she was selling donor matches. Blake Patterson is both, I said. The affair and the priority treatment. She looked up sharply. You're married to her. 8 years. Jesus. She set the phone down carefully, like it might explode. What are you going to do? Expose everything. The fraud, the deaths, all of it. But I need more than what I have. I need someone who understands the medical side, who can explain to investigators exactly how the system was corrupted and what the consequences were. You need an expert witness. I need someone who gives a damn about those 4 people who died." Jennifer stared at the documents for a long moment. When she looked up, something had changed in her expression. The defeated exhaustion replaced by cold determination. "Patient 2847M, she said. "The 14-year-old girl who got Blake's marrow. Her name was Emma Reeves. I met her mother once at a Life Match fundraiser. She brought Emma, this tiny bald kid in a wheelchair wearing a pink hat with cat ears. She was so excited about the donor match, said she couldn't wait to meet the person who saved her life." She wiped her eyes quickly, angry at the tears. "Emma died 6 weeks after the transplant. Graft versus host disease. Her body rejected Blake's marrow because it wasn't compatible enough. If she'd gotten one of the donors Amanda marked unavailable, specifically donor 4472, who was a 9 out of 10 match, she'd probably still be alive." "Can you prove that?" "With access to the full database, yes. The medical records show exactly what went wrong and why. The compatibility scores don't lie. They show that better matches existed and were deliberately passed over." I pulled out a notebook, started writing. "I need names. Every patient who received a suboptimal match, every donor who was incorrectly marked unavailable, every transaction through Harmony Health Solutions. Everything you can remember or document." "I can do better than that." Jennifer reached into her bag again, pulled out a thumb drive. "Before they terminated me, I copied the entire donor database. Technically illegal, probably inadmissible in court, but it has everything. Every match Amanda manipulated, every override she entered, complete audit trails with timestamps." She slid the drive across the table. "I've been carrying this for 8 months, terrified to use it, terrified to destroy it. I kept thinking someone would eventually investigate, someone would care enough to look deeper. But no one did." I picked up the drive, turned it over in my fingers. Small, black, innocuous. A nuclear bomb disguised as office supplies. "The Medical Ethics Board will care," I said. "So will the FBI. Medical fraud, wire fraud, maybe manslaughter charges depending on how aggressive the prosecutor wants to be." "What about you?" Jennifer asked. "Your wife goes to prison. Your daughter loses her mother. You're okay with that?" I thought about Lily's nightlight, the stars projected on her ceiling. About Emma Reeves in her pink cat ear hat, excited to meet her donor. About 3 other people whose names I didn't even know yet, who died because Amanda wanted money and Blake wanted priority treatment. "My daughter already lost her mother," I said. "She just doesn't know it yet." Jennifer nodded slowly. "I'll testify. Whatever you need, depositions, expert analysis, court testimony. I'll do it. It won't be easy. Amanda's lawyers will come after you, try to discredit everything you say. Let them try." She finished her coffee, set the cup down with deliberate precision. "I've spent 8 months being afraid. I'm done with that." We spent the next 2 hours going through the documents, Jennifer explaining the medical details while I took notes. By the time we left, I had a clear picture of exactly how Amanda's scheme worked and what it had cost. 4 deaths. Probably more if we dug deeper into the historical data. All for money and an affair with a pharmaceutical rep who had no idea his donor registration had been weaponized. I drove back to the hotel as the sun set, the thumb drive in my pocket feeling heavier than it should. Tomorrow, I'd contact the Medical Ethics Board. The day after, the FBI. Set the machinery in motion that would destroy Amanda's life and probably mine too. But tonight, I had one more call to make. I sat in my Audi outside Jennifer's apartment complex for 20 minutes after she went inside, the thumb drive burning a hole in my jacket pocket. The evening traffic on Route 7 had thinned to occasional headlights. My phone showed 8:47 p.m. The smart play was to go straight to the FBI field office in White Plains. Hand over everything. Let the professionals handle it. Instead, I drove home. The house was dark except for Lily's nightlight visible through her bedroom window. Amanda's sedan sat in the driveway. She'd gotten home before me for once. I parked on the street 2 houses down, killed the engine, and just watched. 9:23 p.m. The living room lights came on. I could see Amanda's silhouette moving past the front window. Normal. Domestic. She was probably tidying up, maybe pouring a glass of wine, settling in to watch whatever show she'd been binging lately. My wife. The woman who'd held my hand through Lily's difficult birth. Who'd cried at our wedding when her father walked her down the aisle. Who made pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse on Saturday mornings. Who'd also taken money to send dying children to their graves. The disconnect made my head hurt. My phone buzzed. Text from Amanda. "Where are you? Thought you'd be home by now." I typed back, "Grabbed dinner with a client. Home in 20. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "Okay, Lily's asking for you. Hurry home." The heart emoji. Jesus Christ. I needed to see her face when I asked her about it. Needed to watch her try to explain how 4 people, including a 14-year-old girl, died because Amanda wanted to fund what exactly? The affair? Some secret nest egg? But I also needed leverage. Walking in there with just accusations would get me nowhere. Amanda was smart, calculating. She'd led an internal investigation into her own crimes and come out clean. She'd look me in the eye and lie, and part of me, the part that had loved her for 15 years, might actually want to believe her. No, I needed her to know I had everything. The donor database, the financial records, the pattern of deaths that would make any prosecutor salivate. I pulled out my laptop and spent the next hour in the car, copying everything from Jennifer's thumb drive to 3 separate cloud storage accounts. Then I emailed encrypted copies to my personal attorney, my brother in Seattle, and a Gmail account I'd created in college and hadn't touched in a decade. By the time I finished, it was 10:34 p.m. The living room lights had gone off. Amanda's bedroom light, our bedroom light, glowed softly behind drawn curtains. I got out of the car. The front door was unlocked. I stepped into the quiet house, dropped my keys in the bowl by the entrance. Everything looked exactly as it always did. Lily's backpack hung on its hook. Amanda's work bag sat on the bench by the stairs. Mail stacked neatly on the hall table. "You're home." Amanda appeared at the top of the stairs in yoga pants and one of my old college t-shirts. Smiling. "Lily finally crashed about 20 minutes ago. She tried to wait up, but we need to talk." Something flickered across her face. Just for a second. Then the smile returned, though it looked more careful now. "Okay, everything all right? How was Denver?" "Downstairs, not up here." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Let me just check on Lily first." "She's fine. Downstairs. Now." Amanda's jaw tightened, but she came down the stairs. I led her to the kitchen, deliberately putting the island between us. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. The concerned wife routine had evaporated. "What's this about?" Her voice had gone flat. I pulled out my phone, opened the video file I'd watched probably 50 times by now, turned it toward her. Pressed play. Her face went white as she watched herself kiss Blake Patterson in our driveway. I let it run for 30 seconds, long enough to show his hand sliding under her shirt, then stopped it. That's what this is about. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I can explain. I know about Blake. 7 months. The Marriott on Tuesdays and Thursdays when I'm traveling. The weekend in Portland when you told me you were visiting your sister. How did you? Doesn't matter. Here's what does matter. I set the phone down and pulled out the thumb drive, held it up. I also know about Life Match. The blood drained from her face so fast I thought she might pass out. She grabbed the counter edge. I don't know what you think. Emma Reeves, 14 years old, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Died March 18th waiting for a transplant. Had a 10-10 HLA match in the registry named David Miller. But David was never contacted because you told the system he wasn't compatible. Instead, Emma got a 7-10 match who'd paid you $40,000 through Harmony Health Solutions. Amanda's mouth worked soundlessly. Robert Nelson, wait, no. I caught myself. The attorney's warning about using certain names. Robert Taylor, 52, multiple myeloma, had 3 perfect matches, got a 6-10 instead because that donor's family paid you $75,000. Dead in 6 weeks from complications. Stop. Should I keep going? Because I've got the whole database right here. Every manipulation, every bribe, every patient who died because you decided their life was worth less than your bank account. She was shaking now, hands pressed flat on the granite. You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. Jennifer Walsh kept copies of everything before you fired her. The real donor compatibility reports. The altered ones you submitted. The financial transfers. All of it. Jennifer's lying. She was terminated for cause. I've seen the evidence, Amanda. I've cross-referenced it. I know exactly what you did. I leaned forward. What I don't know is why. Was it for Blake? For the affair? Or are you just that greedy? Her face crumpled. For a second I thought she might cry, might break down and confess everything. Instead, her expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. Something cold and calculating that made her look like a stranger. You self-righteous prick. Her voice came out low and venomous. You think you're so much better than me? You're never here. You're always on some business trip, always chasing the next promotion, the next commission check. I'm the one who raises Lily. I'm the one who handles everything while you play big shot in hotel conference rooms. So you what? Committed medical fraud and screwed your lover in our bed as payback? I did what I had to do. Do you know what they pay me at Life Match? $38,000 a year to manage a registry that saves lives. Meanwhile, you're pulling down 6 figures selling medical supplies to hospitals and complaining it's not enough. That we can't afford the house, can't afford private school for Lily? So you sold donor matches? You let people die? They were going to die anyway, she was shouting now. Most of them were terminal. The transplants were Hail Mary attempts. And the donors I selected were still compatible, just not perfect matches. It's not like I was giving them incompatible bone marrow. Emma Reeves was 14 years old and had an 80% survival chance with the right donor. You gave her a match that dropped it to 30%. She died screaming for her mother. Amanda flinched. I didn't know. Yes, you did. That's your job. You knew exactly what you were doing. Silence fell between us. Upstairs, I heard Lily's door creak open, small footsteps padding to the bathroom. We both froze, listening. The toilet flushed. Footsteps back. Door closing. When I looked at Amanda again, tears were streaming down her face, but her eyes held something harder than grief. They held calculation. "What do you want?" she whispered. "Money? I can pay it back, every cent. We can fix this." "There's no fixing this. 4 people are dead, Amanda. Maybe more. I haven't finished going through the database yet." "Then what? You're going to turn me in?" She laughed bitterly. "You'll destroy our family. Lily will lose her mother. We'll lose the house, everything. You should have thought about that before you decided to play God with people's lives." "And Blake?" Her voice turned sharp. "You going to destroy him too?" "Because I didn't know anything about the donor manipulation. He's innocent in all that. But not in the affair." She met my eyes. "No, not in that." I picked up the thumb drive, slipped it back in my pocket. "Tomorrow morning I'm taking this to the FBI. Tonight you're going to pack a bag and leave. I don't care where you go, hotel, Blake's place, wherever. But you're not sleeping under this roof. You can't kick me out of my own house. Watch me. And if you try to access LifeMatch's systems, if you try to delete anything or warn anyone, I'll know. I've already sent copies of everything to 3 different people. You're done, Amanda." She stared at me for a long moment. Then something shifted in her expression, a kind of desperate cunning that made my skin crawl. "If you do this," she said quietly, "I'll tell them you knew, that you helped me, that the money went into our joint accounts and you benefited too. Except it didn't. I've already verified that. Harmony Health Solutions pays into an account in your name only." Her face fell. "Get out," I said. "Now." The house felt different after Amanda left. Not peaceful, just hollow. I stood in the kitchen at 11:47 p.m., listening to the silence, my phone recording the empty rooms like I was documenting a crime scene, which I was. I'd already sent everything to my personal email, the donor database, Jennifer Walsh's documentation, the financial records showing payments to Harmony Health Solutions, screenshots of Amanda's text exchanges with Blake that I'd pulled from the cloud backup she didn't know I had access to. But email felt flimsy, deletable. I needed something more permanent. I opened my laptop and created a new folder on 3 separate drives, local, external, and cloud. Labeled it Evidence, Medical Fraud, LifeMatch Registry. Started organizing everything chronologically. The business analyst in me took over, building spreadsheets, cross-referencing dates. When Amanda had accepted payments, when patients had received suboptimal matches, when those patients had died. Emma Reeves, 14 years old, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Died March 18th, 6 weeks after receiving marrow from a donor who was only a 710 HLA match. There had been a 1010 match available, a 29-year-old teacher from Portland named Michael Garrett. But Michael's profile had been marked unavailable in the system on February 12th, the same day Amanda's LLC received a $45,000 deposit. I pulled up Michael Garrett's social media. He was still posting regularly, still listed as an active donor on the National Registry's public database. Nothing suggested he'd withdrawn or become medically ineligible. Amanda had just removed him from consideration. My hands were shaking again. I made myself breathe, made myself keep working. The second victim, Robert Nelson. No, I caught myself. Robert Miller, 42, father of 3, acute myeloid leukemia. Died April 3rd. His 910 match had been passed over in favor of a 610 match. The better donor, a college student named Ashley Brooks, showed as temporarily unavailable during his matching window. Amanda's LLC had received $28,000 2 days before Ashley's status changed. Third victim, Patricia Lawson, 61, myelodysplastic syndrome. Died May 29th. Her case was different. She'd actually received a 9-10 match, but there had been a 10-10 match available. The perfect donor was a firefighter from Seattle named David Torres. His profile showed declined to proceed in the life match system, but when I found his Facebook, he'd posted just last week about how proud he was to be a registered bone marrow donor and encouraging others to sign up. He didn't even know he'd been removed from consideration. Fourth victim, Marcus. I stopped again. James Anderson, 17 years old. Severe aplastic anemia. Died July 8th. His 10-10 match, a nurse named Rebecca Foster, had been marked medically ineligible in Amanda's system. But Rebecca's profile on the National Registry showed her as active and available. She'd actually donated successfully to a different patient in June, according to a news article I found about her. Amanda had flagged her as ineligible anyway. 4 people. 4 families destroyed. And those were just the deaths Jennifer had documented. How many others had received suboptimal matches but survived? How many were struggling with complications, graft versus host disease, extended recovery times? All because Amanda wanted money for what? Nicer furniture? Better vacations? I pulled up the Harmony Health Solutions account records again. Total deposits over 7 months, $287,000. I searched our joint bank accounts, credit cards, investment portfolios. Nothing unusual. Our finances looked exactly like they had a year ago, comfortable but stretched thin by the mortgage and Lily's private school tuition. So where was the money going? I opened a new browser window and started searching property records. Nothing under Amanda's name. Nothing under Harmony Health Solutions. I tried Blake Patterson's name. There. A condo in Portland. Purchased in May for $340,000. Cash sale. Owner listed as B. Patterson Holdings, LLC. I sat back, the pieces clicking together. The money wasn't for Amanda. It was for Blake. She was funding his life with blood money while patients died. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. You're getting close. Check Blake's medical records. He's not just her lover. He's her patient. I stared at the message. Medical records were protected, encrypted, impossible to access without authorization. But then I remembered. Amanda had mentioned once that LifeMatch's system integrated with several hospital networks for patient coordination. If Blake had registered as a potential recipient. I opened the donor database Jennifer had sent me and searched the recipient side. Nothing under Blake Patterson. I tried variations. B. Patterson. Blake P. Nothing. Then I tried his middle name from the LinkedIn profile I'd found earlier. Blake William Patterson. There. Patient ID 47839. Registered recipient. Diagnosis: chronic myeloid leukemia. Status: active, awaiting optimal match. Priority level: standard. Except his priority level had been manually overridden to critical in the system. Changed by user ID AH2847. Amanda's credentials. I scrolled through his file. Blake had registered as a potential recipient 14 months ago, 2 months before the affair started according to the hotel records. He was a 6-10 match with his siblings, neither compatible enough for transplant. He needed an unrelated donor. And Amanda had been manipulating the entire registry to find him the perfect match. I cross-referenced the dates. Every time Amanda had marked a donor, unavailable, or medically ineligible, I checked whether they were compatible with Blake. Michael Garrett, the teacher from Portland who'd been removed from Emma Reeves's matching pool. 10-10 match for Blake. Ashley Brooks, the college student passed over for Robert Miller. 9-10 match for Blake. David Torres, the firefighter. 10-10 match for Blake. Rebecca Foster, the nurse? 10-10 match for Blake. She wasn't just taking bribes to prioritize random donors. She was removing Blake's potential matches from the pool entirely, making them unavailable to other patients while she kept them reserved for him. And she was taking payments to assign those patients to inferior matches instead, generating revenue while she waited for… What? The perfect moment? Enough money? I checked Blake's medical timeline. His disease was chronic, not acute. He wasn't dying immediately. He could wait months, even years for the right match if his medication kept working. So Amanda was killing other people to keep Blake's options open. My stomach turned. I barely made it to the bathroom before I threw up again, heaving until there was nothing left. When I could breathe, I splashed water on my face and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like I'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Dark circles, stubble, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. I thought about Emma Reeves, 14 years old. Probably looked forward to high school, college, her whole life ahead of her. Gone because Amanda wanted to keep a 10-10 match available for the man she was sleeping with. I thought about Robert Miller's 3 kids, Patricia Lawson's family, James Anderson's parents. Then I thought about Lily, asleep upstairs, her nightlight projecting stars across the ceiling. What would I tell her? How do you explain that her mother let children die? My phone buzzed again. The same unknown number. FBI field office opens at 8 a.m. Special Agent Victoria Grant handles medical fraud cases. She'll want everything you have. Don't wait. I looked at the time. 1:23 a.m., 6.5 hours. I went back to my laptop and started compiling everything into a single document. Timeline, evidence, financial records, patient outcomes, donor manipulations. I created a summary sheet explaining exactly what Amanda had done, how the system worked, and how many people had died. Then I started a second document. This one was about Blake, his diagnosis, his registry profile, the pattern of removing his compatible donors from other patients' pools, the condo purchase that aligned with Amanda's bribe payments. At 4:15 a.m., I had 2 comprehensive reports, each over 50 pages with appendices. I saved them, backed them up, and emailed copies to myself at 3 different addresses. Then I did something I hadn't planned on. I looked up Blake Patterson's phone number. The phone rang 4 times before Blake Patterson answered, his voice thick with sleep. Hello? I checked the timestamp on my laptop screen. 4:17 a.m. in New York meant 1:17 a.m. in Portland. Good. I wanted him disoriented. Blake, it's Amanda's husband. I kept my voice flat, businesslike. We need to talk about your medical situation. Silence. Then rustling. Sheets, probably. A door closing softly. When he spoke again, his voice had dropped to a whisper. Listen, man. I don't know what she told you, but she told me you have chronic myeloid leukemia. Stage 2, diagnosed 14 months ago. You've been on Gleevec, but your oncologist recommended a bone marrow transplant 6 months ago when you developed resistance. I paused. She also told me you have no idea what she's been doing to help you. More silence. I heard him breathing, processing. What are you talking about? Amanda works for Life Match Registry. She's been manipulating your donor matches. I pulled up the spreadsheet Jennifer had given me. 73 potential donors have been marked as incompatible in the system when they were actually strong matches. She's been keeping them in reserve for you while telling other patients they had no options. That's insane. But his voice wavered. Amanda works in office management. She doesn't have access to… She has administrator credentials. She's been doing this for 7 months, Blake. Since February. I clicked through the database entries. 4 people have died waiting for transplants. Emma Reeves was 14. James Anderson was 17. They both had donors who would have saved them, but those donors were marked unavailable because they matched you better. I heard him sit down heavily. A clock ticked in the background. I didn't ask her to do anything like that. I know. And I did. The timestamps showed Amanda had started manipulating the database 3 weeks after Blake's oncologist recommended the transplant, before their affair even began based on the hotel records. She did it on her own, but you're going to help me fix it. Fix it how? By telling the truth when the FBI asks, by providing your complete medical records, by confirming you never requested or authorized any manipulation of the donor registry. I opened a new document, started typing. In exchange, I'll make sure the prosecutor knows you weren't complicit, that you're a victim of Amanda's obsession. And if I don't? Then you go down with her. Conspiracy to commit medical fraud. 4 counts of negligent homicide. Maybe more when they finish the full audit. I let that sink in. Your choice. Help me put her away, or spend the next 20 years in federal prison while your leukemia kills you anyway. He didn't answer for a long time. I heard traffic in the background. Portland was 3 hours behind, but the city never fully slept. What do you need from me? Nothing yet. Just don't run. Don't warn her. When the FBI contacts you, and they will, probably by Monday, you tell them everything. Every conversation about your diagnosis, every time she mentioned the registry, every detail you can remember. She never really talked about work, he said quietly. She'd mentioned difficult days, problem employees, but nothing specific about donors or matches. That's fine. Tell them that too. I saved the document, started a new one. One more thing. Did she ever mention a woman named Jennifer Walsh? No. Who's that? Someone who tried to stop this months ago. I pulled up Jennifer's termination paperwork. Amanda had her fired in July, claimed she was violating patient privacy protocols. Blake exhaled slowly. Jesus Christ. Yeah. I checked the time again. 4:23 a.m. In 3 hours, I'd call Agent Grant. In 6 hours, Amanda would wake up in whatever hotel she'd found and start planning her next move. Stay by your phone. The FBI will want to talk to you soon. Wait. His voice cracked slightly. Is Amanda going to prison? Yes. For how long? I thought about Emma Reeves's mother, about the video Jennifer had shown me of her testifying at a hospital board meeting about her daughter's death, about James Anderson's father, who'd started a foundation in his son's name to advocate for transplant registry reform. Long enough that Lily will be in college before she gets out. I closed the laptop. If she's lucky. He didn't say anything else. I ended the call. The hotel room felt smaller now, the walls pressing in. I stood, walked to the window. Denver was starting to wake up. Delivery trucks on the streets below, lights coming on in office buildings. The mountains were sharper now, defined against the lightening sky. My phone buzzed. Another message from the unknown number. Blake will cooperate. He's terrified. Good work. I stared at the screen. This person, whoever they were, had been feeding me information for days. The doorbell footage, the financial records, the tip about Blake's medical condition. They knew things they shouldn't know, had access they shouldn't have. I typed back, "Who are you?" The response came immediately. Someone who lost a sister to Amanda's greed. That's all you need to know. I read it 3 times. One of the victims had a sibling. Emma Reeves had 2 older brothers. Patricia Lawson had a sister in Connecticut. Robert Miller's family tree showed 3 sisters. James Anderson had been an only child. Which sister? No response. I waited 5 minutes, then 10. Nothing. I pulled up the victim files again, cross-referencing family members. Emma's brothers were 19 and 22. Possible, but young to have the technical skills for the hacking I'd seen. Patricia's sister was 58, worked as a high school principal in Hartford. Robert Miller's sisters were scattered, one in California, one in Texas, one in Florida. None of them had obvious connections to data security or surveillance technology. Unless they'd hired someone. Unless the technical work was contracted out while the family member provided direction, motivation, inside knowledge. My phone rang. Amanda. I let it go to voicemail, watch the notification appear. We need to talk. Please. I can explain everything. I deleted it without listening. At 5 a.m. I ordered room service. Coffee, eggs, toast I wouldn't eat. The food arrived at 5:23, delivered by a kid who couldn't have been more than 20. He set up the tray, accepted his tip, left without making eye contact. I drank the coffee black and bitter, staring at my laptop screen. Jennifer's database backup contained 847 patient records. I'd only examined a fraction of them. How many others had received suboptimal matches? How many had survived but suffered complications that wouldn't have occurred with their best donor? How many families were living with preventable pain because Amanda had prioritized bribes and her lover over human lives? I started going through the records systematically, looking for patterns. Patients who'd been matched with donors rated below 810 compatibility when better options existed. It took 40 minutes to find the first one. Michael Torres, 34, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. He'd received a 610 match in April when a 1010 donor had been available, but marked as unavailable due to medical contraindication. The 1010 donor had been reserved for Blake. Torres had survived the transplant, but developed severe graft-versus-host disease. According to his follow-up records, he'd spent 3 months in the ICU and would need immunosuppressive therapy for the rest of his life. I documented it, moved on. Found another. Lisa Brennan, 29, myelodysplastic syndrome. 7 out of 10 match when a 910 was available. She'd survived but lost kidney function due to transplant complications. By 6:30 a.m., I had 11 more cases. 11 people whose lives had been permanently damaged by Amanda's manipulation. 11 families who deserved to know the truth. I called Agent Grant's number at exactly 7 a.m. Eastern Time. She answered on the second ring. Special Agent Victoria Grant. Agent Grant, my name is... I caught myself. Jennifer had told me to be careful, to assume all calls were monitored. We spoke briefly yesterday about a situation involving LifeMatch registry. I remember. You have information about donor matching irregularities. I have complete database backups showing systematic fraud spanning 7 months. 4 confirmed deaths. At least 11 cases of serious medical complications from suboptimal donor selection. Financial records showing $287,000 in bribes. And I have a witness who will testify to the entire operation. The call with Special Agent Victoria Grant lasted 47 minutes. She didn't sound surprised. That was the first thing I noticed. The complete absence of shock in her voice when I outlined what Amanda had done. Just careful questions, specific requests for documentation, and the occasional pause while she typed notes. Mr. Brennan, I need you to send everything to the secure portal I'm about to provide. Don't email it. Don't upload it anywhere else. And don't discuss this investigation with anyone except your attorney. I already spoke with Jennifer Walsh and Blake Patterson. A longer pause. When? Walsh, yesterday afternoon. Patterson this morning. What did Patterson say? That he didn't know. That Amanda told him she'd expedited his case through legitimate channels. I stared at the spreadsheet still open on my laptop. He's willing to cooperate. I'm sure he is. Her tone suggested she'd heard that before. Mr. Brennan, I want to be very clear about something. Your wife isn't the only person we'll be investigating. Anyone who benefited from the manipulation, anyone who had knowledge of it, they're all potential subjects. Blake has leukemia. He needed a transplant. And 4 people died while he got pushed to the front of the line. No sympathy in her voice now. Desperation doesn't excuse conspiracy to commit fraud. It certainly doesn't excuse manslaughter. The word hit like a fist. Manslaughter. Not just fraud or corruption, actual criminal homicide charges. How long until you move on this? That depends on the evidence. If what you're describing is accurate, we'll coordinate with the U.S. Attorney's Office. Probably bring in HHS Office of Inspector General, maybe the State Medical Board. This touches multiple jurisdictions. She paused. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? Once we start making inquiries, your wife will know. She already knows I found out about the affair. She doesn't know I have the registry evidence. Keep it that way as long as possible. Send me everything through the portal within the next 2 hours. I'll have someone from our white-collar crime division review it tonight. After she hung up, I sat staring at the phone. The hotel room felt smaller somehow, the walls pressing in. Outside, Seattle traffic hummed through the rain. I'd been in this city for 3 days, closing a deal with a hospital network that would hit my quota for the quarter. None of that mattered anymore. I pulled up the secure portal on my laptop and started uploading files. The financial records went first. Every transaction between Harmony Health Solutions and the shell accounts Amanda had used. Then the registry database Jennifer had provided, with my annotations marking the discrepancies. Screenshots of the donor manipulation. The list of victims I'd compiled, cross-referenced with obituaries and medical records I'd found through public databases. Emma Reeves, 14 years old, died 6 weeks after receiving a 4 out of 6 match when a perfect donor had been available. Her mother's Facebook page was still active, still posting memories. David Nelson. No, I couldn't use that name. David Miller, 62, grandfather of 5, died of graft versus host disease from a poorly matched transplant. His donor had been a 3 out of 6 match. A 6 out of 6 had been removed from his file 2 days before the selection. The upload took 19 minutes. When it finished, I closed the laptop and walked to the window. Rain streaked the glass, blurring the city lights below. My phone buzzed. Amanda. We need to talk about Lily, about how we're going to handle this. I stared at the message. She still thought this was about the affair, about Blake and the betrayal and splitting up our marriage. She had no idea what was coming. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Every instinct screamed to confront her, to tell her exactly what I knew and watch her face when she realized the walls were closing in. But Victoria Grant's words echoed. Keep it that way, as long as possible. Me. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow about custody arrangements. Amanda. Your lawyer? Jesus Christ, you're really doing this? Amanda. What about Lily? You're going to put her through a custody battle because I made a mistake? A mistake? She'd called it a mistake. Not the affair. That was just the surface. The real mistake was thinking she could play God with people's lives and never face consequences. Me. This isn't about what I'm doing. It's about what you did. I turned off my phone before she could respond. The minibar had a bottle of whiskey I'd been ignoring for 3 nights. I poured 2 fingers into a plastic cup and drank it standing at the window. It burned going down, but the warmth spread through my chest and I poured another. My laptop chimed. Email from Jennifer Walsh, sent to my personal account. Subject: additional files. I found something else in the backup. Amanda kept detailed notes, like a journal of every manipulation she made. Dates, amounts, justifications. She documented everything. I'm sending it through a secure file transfer. Password is the name of your daughter plus the year you got married. I opened the transfer link. The password worked. Lily 2016. 43 pages of notes in Amanda's handwriting, scanned from a physical notebook. The first entry was dated February 18th, 7 months ago. B needs help. His counts are dropping faster than expected. Standard protocol would put him at 6 to 8 month wait minimum. Can't let that happen. Started reviewing donor pool for optimization opportunities. Optimization opportunities. Clinical language for condemning strangers to death. I scrolled through the entries. Each one detailed a specific manipulation, which donor she'd removed, which patient she'd deprioritized, how much money she'd received for the transaction. Some entries included justifications. March 3. Removed donor 847A from Miller file. Patient is 62, limited life expectancy anyway. B is 34, whole life ahead of him, easy choice. March 15th. 15K deposit from Westwood family. Their daughter gets bumped to priority list. She's only 8, seems fair. Used partial match from B's rejected pool. He didn't need that one anyway. April 22nd. Emma Reeves' case is complicating. Mother keeps calling, asking about better matches. Had to tell her the 4 out of 6 was best available. Removed the perfect match last week for B's reserve pool. Girl is young, probably resilient enough to handle the less optimal donor. Emma Reeves died May 30th. I read that entry 4 times, trying to find something, anything, that suggested Amanda understood what she'd done. Some flicker of remorse or recognition that she'd murdered a 14-year-old girl to protect her lover. Nothing. Just clinical assessment and cold calculation. The next entries got worse. By June, she'd developed a complete system. Wealthy families paid between $15,000 and $45,000 for priority placement. Their money funded Blake's treatment, his Portland condo, probably the expensive dinners and hotel rooms where they celebrated while children died waiting for transplants she'd stolen from them. June 8th. B's counts stabilizing with current treatment, but transplant still necessary for long-term survival. Have identified 3 potential perfect matches in reserve pool, keeping them isolated from general matching until his case is ready to proceed. Timeline looking good for August procedure. August, next month. She'd been planning this for half a year, systematically building Blake a private collection of perfect donors while other patients got whatever scraps remained. My phone buzzed despite being turned off. I'd forgotten about the battery. It must have restarted. 3 messages from Amanda, increasingly frantic. Amanda. Please just talk to me. Amanda. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. Amanda. Don't shut me out like this. Think about Lily. I turned the phone off again, properly this time, and returned to the journal entries. The last one was dated 4 days ago. August 10th, everything is ready. B's procedure scheduled for August 28th. Perfect donor confirmed. All preliminary tests complete. After this, we can finally stop hiding. Start our real life together. He promised we'd go to Costa Rica after his recovery. Just the two of us, somewhere nobody knows us. Finally be happy. 2 weeks. She'd been 2 weeks away from her happy ending when I got that anonymous message at 2:47 a.m. I wondered if the messenger knew about the August 28th date. If they'd timed the revelation specifically to destroy Amanda's plans right before she could execute them. The rain had stopped. Seattle sprawled below, lights reflecting off wet pavement. Somewhere in this city, people were living normal lives, going to dinner, watching movies, putting their kids to bed. They had no idea that 3 time zones away, a bone marrow registry coordinator had spent 7 months playing God with their neighbors' lives. My laptop chimed again. Email from Victoria Grant. Subject: Receipt confirmed. Mr. Brennan, files received and under review. Do not attempt further contact with any potential witnesses or subjects. An agent will contact you within 48 hours to schedule a formal interview. Maintain normal routine and do not alert your wife to the investigation. Maintain normal routine. I almost laughed. My normal routine had included trusting my wife, believing in my marriage, thinking the world operated on basic principles of fairness and decency. That routine was gone. I poured the rest of the whiskey down the sink and started packing. The FBI moved faster than I expected. 48 hours after I sent the files, agents showed up at LifeMatch's offices with a warrant. I wasn't there to see it, but Jennifer called me from the parking lot, her voice shaking with something between vindication and terror. They're taking everything: computers, files, even the office plants. Amanda tried to leave through the back entrance and they stopped her. She's in handcuffs. I was standing in my lawyer's office when I got the call. Through the window, I could see Westchester County spread out below. The same view Amanda and I had admired when we'd first moved here, talking about building a life, raising Lily in a good neighborhood. What about the patients? I asked. They're contacting everyone who received a transplant in the last year, offering genetic retesting, medical evaluations. The board is cooperating fully. She paused. It's over. It's actually over. But it wasn't over. Not really. The next 3 weeks were a blur of depositions, interviews, and media coverage that turned our private catastrophe into national news. Bone marrow registry coordinator arrested in transplant fraud scheme ran on every major outlet. They used Amanda's employee photo, her professional smile, navy scrubs, looking like someone you'd trust with your life. 4 people had made that mistake. Blake Patterson was arrested 2 days after Amanda. Despite his cooperation, the U.S. Attorney's Office charged him with conspiracy. They'd found emails showing he'd known about at least 2 cases where Amanda had manipulated donor selection. He'd convinced himself it was harmless optimization, just moving administrative barriers. The jury didn't agree. He got 8 years. Amanda went to trial in November. I sat through every day of testimony, watching her defense attorney try to paint her as a devoted healthcare worker who'd made judgment errors under stress. The prosecution countered with Emma Reeves's mother, who described watching her daughter die in agony from complications that wouldn't have occurred with the right donor. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts: medical fraud, wire fraud, 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. The judge sentenced her to 23 years in federal prison. I didn't feel victorious when they led her away. I felt empty. Lily was 7 when her mother went to prison. We told her that mommy had made very serious mistakes at work, that she'd hurt people and had to go away for a long time. She cried for 3 days straight, asking questions I couldn't answer. Why didn't mommy say goodbye? When is she coming home? Did I do something wrong? No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups make terrible choices and everyone suffers for it. She lives with me now, in a smaller house in a quieter neighborhood. We sold the Colonial. Too many memories. Too much space for two people. She sees a therapist twice a week. Some days are better than others. Amanda writes letters that I don't let Lily read yet. Maybe when she's older. Maybe never. The letters are full of justifications, explanations about how she'd been trying to save Blake, how the system was broken anyway, how she'd never meant for anyone to die. She still doesn't understand that intentions don't matter when children end up in graves. Jennifer Walsh got her job back at LifeMatch after the new board took over. She's director of quality assurance now, implementing protocols to prevent anyone from ever manipulating the system again. We have coffee sometimes. She never says, "I told you so," but I can see it in her eyes. The anonymous messenger never contacted me again after that final text about losing a sister. I spent months trying to identify them, cross-referencing victim family members, looking for connections to surveillance technology, following digital breadcrumbs that led nowhere. Eventually, I gave up. Whoever they were, they'd given me the truth when I needed it most. That was enough. Blake died in prison 16 months into his sentence. His leukemia progressed faster than expected without the transplant. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. He'd helped kill 4 people trying to save himself, and died anyway. His wife Jessica divorced him before the trial ended. She sends Lily a Christmas card every year, like she's trying to apologize for something that wasn't her fault. 3 years after Amanda's conviction, LifeMatch established the Emma Reeves Memorial Fund for Transplant Registry Reform. They invited me to the launch event. I couldn't go. Seeing Emma's mother would have destroyed me. But I sent a donation. It felt like the least I could do. I still travel for work, though not as much. Lily needs stability more than I need promotions. We have dinner together every night. I help with homework. We watch movies on weekends. I'm teaching her to ride a bike without training wheels. Sometimes she asks about her mother. I tell her the truth, age appropriately. That mommy made choices that hurt people. That loving someone doesn't mean excusing what they've done. That we can miss someone and still know they need to face consequences. I don't know if she understands. Maybe she will when she's older. The doorbell camera footage is still saved in 3 separate cloud accounts. I've never watched it again, but I can't delete it either. Evidence of the moment my life split into before and after. Sometimes I think about the person I was at 2:47 a.m. in that Denver hotel room, exhausted, jet-lagged, reaching for my phone without knowing everything was about to change. I wonder what I'd tell him if I could. That he's stronger than he thinks? That he'll survive this? That his daughter will be okay eventually? Or maybe just brace yourself. The truth is coming, and it's worse than you can imagine. But here's what I've learned. What I tell Lily when she's old enough to ask the hard questions. Doing the right thing doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like tearing your own life apart with your bare hands. Sometimes it means your daughter grows up without a mother. Your marriage becomes a cautionary tale. Your family becomes a statistic in someone's research paper about medical fraud. You do it anyway. Because somewhere out there, families are still grieving children who should have lived. Somewhere, A mother still visits her 14-year-old daughter's grave and wonders why the system failed her. Somewhere, people are waiting for transplants, trusting that the registry will give them their best chance at survival. They deserve better than silence. They deserve better than complicity. They deserve the truth no matter what it costs. Emma Reeves would have turned 18 this year. Her mother posts about it on Facebook sometimes, imagining what Emma would have studied in college, what she'd have become. I don't comment, but I read every word. It's a penance I'll never finish serving. Lily asks sometimes if people can be both good and bad at the same time. If someone who does terrible things can still love their family. If mistakes can be so big they can't be forgiven. I tell her yes. People are complicated. Love doesn't excuse harm. And some mistakes are so catastrophic they reshape everything they touch. Then I tuck her in, kiss her forehead, and watch her nightlight project stars across the ceiling. Tomorrow we'll get up and try again. Build a life from the wreckage. Teach her that truth matters more than comfort, that justice matters more than convenience, that some lines can never be uncrossed. It's not the life I planned. It's not the family I thought I'd have. But it's honest. And after everything, that's all I have left to give her. The truth and the hope that it's enough.